Good afternoon, Mr. Rotimi, Mr. Idris. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam
Good
Kira.
afternoon.
We're glad to have you here to help us in monitoring. Mr.
Thank
Rotimi,
you.
is everybody present now? Can we start?
Uh, we're expecting one more person. Yes, just Sophia.
Sophia is the moderator, so we already have up to about 140 people that have already started, and it's 3 o'clock. I think we should just start.
Yeah,
And
okay.
let me start with the introductions, and maybe before then she would have come on board.
Are you able to join, Sophia? Hi, Sophia.
You're not muted on the call.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and you're welcome to today's webinar, AI and the Next Generation of Lawyers. This is brought to you by the Practical Training Academy in collaboration with Optal. My name is Idris Adeni Mohammed. I'm a managing partner of Pharma Firm and also a director in the Practical Training Academy. I am standing in today for Mr. Tobena Orojikwe, the founder and chairperson and chairman of the Practical Training Academy. Just some preliminaries before we go into the main program. This, as you always know, is a free NBA ICLE accredited session. What's one CPD point? So ensure that your registration has been completed in order to get this. We have an extraordinary panel today, and a packed 2 hours ahead of us. You can please use the Q&A box on Zoom to drop your questions at any time, and we'll address them during our dedicated Q&A session. The chat box in this Zoom portal is also open for comments and reaction. So let me quickly now go to the profile and to let you know about the mode of how this webinar will be going on today. As stated earlier, this is a collaboration with an organization known as Optal. And so to help us moderate the session is Sophia Igbemudia. Sophia Igbemudia is an LLM research manager at Optal, where she leads research into large language models that can be applied reliably and accurately within legal practice. She brings a rare dual pedigree, trained as a lawyer, LLB, from the University of Nottingham and called to the Nigerian bar. And then she has been working at the frontier of AI research. Prior to Optal, Sophia has worked across Nigerian law firms, including several of Nigeria's top tier 1 firms, and has held research and training roles in AI sector as a team lead on AI model quality. She also has experience with LexisNexis, giving her a deep exposure to legal research technology. Our work at Optal focuses on ensuring that AI legal tools are accurate, jurisdictional appropriate, and professionally responsible, directly addressing core issues and concerns that make lawyers hesitant to adopt AI tools. Also, from the Optal team, we have the co-founder or the founder of Optal itself, Mr. Olufemi Ogunshola. Mr. Olufemi Ogunshola is Optal's Chief Technology Officer and brings deep software engineering and infrastructure experience from JP Morgan Chase, Infosys, and Comcast. He's currently a vice president of software engineering at JP Morgan Chase and has built expertise across Java, Python, AWS, Terraform, NLP, GraphBig, and Postgres, supporting Opta's scalable legal AI platform development. As we go on, Mr. Ogunshola will be giving us a live demo of what the Optal portal can do for the Nigerian lawyer. Lastly, but not the least, is my very good friend and one of the leading authorities on tech and AI in Nigeria today, Mr. Rotimi Ogunyemi. Mr. Rotimi is a partner at BOC Legal, one of Nigeria's leading technology law practice, and a policy and governance advisor and president of the Spindler Cyber Law Center. Mr. Rotimi has shaped the conversation on AI governance and ICT regulation in Nigeria for over 2 decades. And we are privileged to have him open our substantive session. As we earlier on stated, this is a partnership with, this webinar is a partnership between the TPTA and Optal. And without wasting much of your time, I would hand over now to Sophia Idemudia, who would be moderating this session as we go ahead. And in case there are any questions, as I've earlier stated, please drop them in the comment section or in the Q&A session. So I'll now call on Sophia to take over and moderate this session. I'll be back in between to give the closing remarks and if there are any questions that I have from my own end. So Sophia, the ball is yours.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Idris. And welcome everyone to this session. I have high hopes that it will be informative. Just to introduce what we're here to talk about. The substantive part of this meeting is going to talk about AI and how the next generation of lawyers will interact with that. We're not here to discuss what AI is or whether it's coming to the legal profession. I think this question has been sufficiently answered because we know that AI is here to stay. But what we are here today is to ask the more important question of how do we ensure that the next generation of lawyers still develop sound legal judgment, professional ethics, and critical thinking in an AI-enabled world. Traditionally, junior lawyers learned by doing. It was very much an on-the-job training. So they drafted, they researched, they reviewed documents, and critically they made mistakes and gained feedback from those mistakes. These tasks were repetitive and they were not just simply administrative, but they were the building blocks for how legal judgment and reasoning was developed and built. But now AI is beginning to automate a lot of these kinds of tasks, these same activities that helped lawyers, junior lawyers particularly, develop these legal reasoning skills. So this presents an opportunity because AI is a tool that helps to upscale your workflows. It helps to improve what you're doing. It helps you be a better lawyer beyond doubt, as long as you're using it responsibly. But it also presents a challenge in the fact that it's taking over the work that went into training young lawyers. So the question is, if AI performs the work that traditionally trained young lawyers, what becomes the new pathway for developing professional judgment? And throughout today's discussion, we will be exploring 4 key themes. Now, the first is how legal work itself is changing due to AI. The second one is how firms should rethink training because of these tools that are coming into the market and are becoming a must-have. The third is how effective supervision looks like in an AI-assisted environment. And then finally, we'll discuss how legal teams should be redesigned without compromising ethics, confidentiality, or client trust. And to navigate these questions, I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. Rotimi Oguyemi, who is a leading expert in this area. Thank you so much for having a chat with me today, Mr. Rotimi.
Thank you.
Okay, so to jump straight into my first question. So a lot of firms, as we know, are adopting AI. It is the next best thing in terms of legal tech, in terms of the tools of the trade. And it is touted as a key component for upscaling efficiency within the legal workflow. Now, how do we ensure that the pursuit of this efficiency doesn't just come at the expense of developing sound legal judgment amongst junior lawyers?
Thank you very much, Sophia. Fantastic question. But let me say good afternoon to everyone, distinguished colleagues on the call, seniors and different ones. Thank you to the Practical Training Academy. Idris, thank you for hosting us. Thank you to Hotel for having me. And again, thank you all for joining us. I'm pleased to be part of this conversation. And without much ado, I would answer the question. Sophia has laid a fantastic foundation. So without rehashing what Sophia has said, I think the starting point is that we must remember that the so-called routine work, the grunt work, had always served at least two purposes in our firms. One, we provide solutions to our clients, we give them answers. But the second one is the understated one, and which is what Sophia had referred to when leading up to this question. The second one is that this grunt work, this routine work, has always been the informal training for junior lawyers. So a junior lawyer reads the cases, arranges the facts, prepares the first draft, takes correction from the senior associate or the partner. What's happening without it being said is apprenticeship. That junior is actually learning how legal reasoning works. So the catch-22 is if the AI removes all of those tasks, which we call routine, then the firm must deliberately find a way to preserve the training. So think about your Google Maps, your GPS. Many of us use it, of course, but say you arrive in a new city, right? And you use that GPS for every journey. The truth is, you will most likely get to your destination very quickly, and that's fine. That is efficient, right? But there's a risk. The risk is that you may never understand the eternal workings of that city, what I would call the eternal mapping. You may never be able to know the landmarks, the tension points. Why? Because you have relied solely on that blue link and sometimes red on your Google Maps. So think about the junior, the work of the junior, the first year associates, second, third year. It's like that GPS, right? I mean, it's like being in that GPS environment with the entrance of AI. Now, if a junior reads a full judgment from whatever primary source you use, Legalpedia, Law Pavilion, and if the junior struggles with having to write a contract from scratch, what is happening again, emphasis, is that junior is learning through difficulty, what we call through the struggle. And I don't mean that struggle that our seniors used to talk about, like I suffered and so you must suffer. No, yeah, I'm talking about just that part of life, that struggle, right? So if from day one, the AI drives the junior will produce attractive work, but it may come at a cost. The junior may not, just like the GPS, may not understand the routes in the city. So what happens if you lose network and suddenly you're in the middle of a city, you've relied on Google Maps and you don't even know where to turn? That's a problem. So the answer is firms must be intentional in protecting some manual core of our legal work, right? So what that means is let AI augment, let it assist. But I believe we must insist that our juniors do certain parts of the work themselves. And I will talk more about that as we continue this conversation. So what I'm saying in essence, before I pass it back to Sophia, is, well, and again, Sophia had said we are not coming here to talk about how tech glorious AI is. It is. For those of you following the news, the last 1 week, we've had back-to-back models being released into the market. Fable 5, it went off, it came back. ChatGPT 5.6. So, right, that is a wonder. Even Meta, Grok 4.5, all of these guys are coming back to the surface. So what I'm saying is the tools are here and they are good, but they are very good and they are going to save time. But that time that is being saved, we must be intentional about putting some of it back into training so that we don't eat up our future, because the experts of tomorrow are the folks who will do the grunt and the routine work today. So GPS may take you through the city, but you will need to learn the city for yourself. So yes, back to you, Sophia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rotimi. That was an incredibly detailed response. And also just building up on that, you briefly touched on these grunt work, so-called grunt work or routine work that is, traditionally the wheelhouse of trainees and junior lawyers. Now, these tasks we know are being taken over by these AI tools, things like, writing first drafts and even due diligence and contract review. We have tools now that specialize in helping with this kind of work. And like I said, as much as we want to promote efficiency, we don't want to sacrifice it, for actual properly trained lawyers. Now, which of these tasks, these so-called grunt or routine work that AI can now do, but which of them do you think is fundamental and core to training legal minds right now? And why should we focus on making these particular tasks manual?
Fantastic question again, Sophia. And, I'll be very direct. So I'm going to say this, that certain things, certain tasks must be preserved. And part of that preservation means we must insist that some things will also be done manually, even though the AI can do it. Number one, and I'll talk about 6 things very quickly. Number one, the junior should read the entire statute, law, regulation, or judgment in full. Everyone on this call knows that the AI is good in scanning through a 50-page judgment, can summarize it for you and tell you the core. But a summary only tells you the results. Many times it removes the path that the journey that the courts went through to get to that result. For instance, what arguments did the courts reject? What facts did the court really emphasize on? So what I'm saying is a junior should retain that manual skill of reading. We live in the TikTok world where attention span has nosedived. 4 minutes is a long time. We now look at 30 seconds video, right? And so most people cannot actually sit down and read. That is a skill that should never be sacrificed. And the reason is because you want a lawyer who can tell you the why and not just the what. The why requires you sit with it and you read it. Number 2, the junior should retain that skill of being able to put facts together. That is, you are able to map the chronology of facts in whatever case or contract or whatever endeavor you are dealing with. I mean, imagine if a junior is reviewing this file and it contains an email on Tuesday, another email on Thursday. Now, this can easily be processed by an AI. But say in that file, it said, oh, and there was a phone call on Wednesday. Now, that phone call is not on record. And the AI, it thrives on at least 3 technologies: natural language processing, machine learning, computer vision. If that phone call was not transcribed and fed into its algorithm, that's a missing fact. The careful lawyer is the one who is able to map out the facts and say, oh, there was a phone call on Wednesday. Let me find out what it says. That's manual. Number 3, a junior should be able to write a draft in some cases, and I emphasize in some cases, write a draft on a blank page. Now, I say that because we know that one of the superpower of AI is it can give you that first draft and then you refine it, you polish it. But I believe that there are certain times when it's best to take an empty screen and begin to type from scratch without relying on the AI for your first draft. It helps you to think from first principles. It helps you to bring structure to scattered facts. Right? That's where judgment starts from. The struggle in being able to map facts together and law, right? The machine can do it, yes, but please, I beg you, don't always ask the machine to do that for you, right? Because that's where competence starts from. Number four, it's tied to number 3. That is, you should be able to draw up, that's the junior, right? And when I say junior, I'm probably talking to everyone on this call, right? You should be able to draw up an issue map and say, for instance, oh, in this case, the strongest weakness we have in this case is the statute of limitation. You have it on paper or you have it on screen. Then when you ask the AI to table the issue for you, you already have a benchmark. So let's say that the AI missed out that issue of statute of limitation as a counter argument to your well laid out case. Because you have taken the initiative to write it out, right? That omission becomes visible to you. Number 5 is verification. And I won't spend so much time on that now. But I mean, that is a skill set that should remain manual. Verification means you check every citation, you check every statutory provision, you read every last line, right? Because, and again, we'll talk about that much later, that thing called hallucination can be a career-ending problem. Number 6, and I think this is perhaps the most important. I think it's the most important. Whatever it is that you are asked to work on, even when you use the best AI tool, the junior should be able to defend it orally. That means you close your laptop, put your notes away, and you explain orally what the issue is. What sources did you rely on? What facts could change the conclusion? So, I mean, with these 6 skill sets, it really comes down to what we were taught in secondary school in maths. I know most of us lawyers, we ran away from maths. But the point was, the person marking your script was not only going to look at your answer, the person was going to look at your steps. And sometimes your answer may be wrong, but your steps are correct, right? And so if you are able to defend your work orally, many times that means you truly understand it, you understand the steps, and that will set you apart. And yeah, I took some time there, but yes, back to you, Sophia.
Thank you so much. I'm really enjoying this discussion. And I think, honestly, I had to write some notes, but what really even stood out to me was your first point about, reading statutes and judgments all the way through, because I think that is also something that is beginning to be severely lacking amongst juniors, where you just put it in the AI and it gives you a summary and you can fib your way through it. But at the end of the day, those critical skills like understanding what exactly is the ratio of the judgment and then being able to identify what statements were made obiter, I think that is a skill that is it's possible that it could go extinct if we're not careful. Being able to distinguish the ratio decidendi, being able to distinguish obiter judgments, or even just in law school they made us learn drafts, and I know it was the bane of every student's existence, learning drafts. You're like, I know there's gonna be templates when I get into practice. We're not gonna have to say this off heart. It's never gonna happen. But the truth is, just because you know what the document should look like, you're able to look at a subpar one and pinpoint where the issues are. So if, for example, a motion ex parte is not done properly, you can pick it out because you're saying, okay, this particular clause is missing. So I completely agree with that. And for your final point, which I agree is completely, I think, surpasses all of them. You were talking about looking at the steps, right? And not just the end result. It's all about the journey. If we're going back to your anecdote with using Google Maps, it's about the journey and learning on the way. So in line with that, I would say, practically speaking, what should supervisors, that's senior associate, partners, whatever, what should they be looking at beyond the final output? Because at the end of the day, we have these tools that are being employed where, as you said and rightly identified, junior lawyers can use them to bypass these processes. So what should supervisors in general be looking at just beyond the final output, beyond the final motion, or beyond the final legal opinion, or whatever it is that the junior has been giving to draft? What else should they be looking at?
Fantastic question again, and a very neat summary there, Sophia. So just for our very distinguished audience, when Sophia says what should the supervisor be looking out for, she's talking about you, maybe the senior associate or the partner or the owner who has the responsibility of supervising the work of a junior. So the question is, what should the supervisor be looking out for beyond the answer? First of all, I think it's worth repeating that the reason for this question is because AI has become very good at presentation, right? And everyone here can testify A document may be very clear, well organized, persuasive, yet contains hidden errors that could change the entire ballgame, right? It used to be in the early days, 2022, 2023, people would laugh at the models, and there were certain telltale signals, poor grammar, confused structure, but as the models have gotten better, those telltale signs has disappeared. So now the output of most models, and when I say models, I mean whatever AI tool you're using, is very polished, right? And the temptation is for the supervisor, the senior associate, to look at the polished outcome and just nod and say, oh, fantastic. Yeah. But there are at least 4 questions that a supervisor should ask, right? I think the first question is to ask pointedly, what part of this what products you have submitted to me was AI assisted. Now, I believe that it used to be that folks were embarrassed using AI. I honestly want to think that that's history, not anymore, right? So the first question is not to shame the junior or not to make the junior look any less, but when you ask what part of this work was assisted by AI, what you are trying to map is you want to know, oh, was AI used in the thinking, in the reasoning, in the planning, or just maybe in the formatting, right? So that's one. The second question is, you ask, what instructions was given to this AI? And we all know that when we say instructions, we mean prompts, right? You see, because the AI can give a very logical answer if the prompts are wrong. And that is, it can give a great answer if the assumptions are wrong. So as a supervisor, I want to know, what prompt did you give, right? So that's my baseline. That's where I want to start from, to note whether there could be an error in this beautiful looking piece. Then number 3, I'm going to ask you pointedly, what primary sources supports your conclusions in this output, right? Whether it's a motion, whether it's a contract, show me the statute, show me the law, show me the judgments, show me that official regulation. I need to confirm that it exists. And then I need to know that it says what you say that it says. And number four, I think, is the most important. And for me, this is where I think if any supervisor leaves out any of the things I've said before, this one is the most important. Ask your junior, where did you disagree with the AI and why? You see, this is the most useful question because it actually reveals, where the junior actively tested the answer or just mindlessly accepted it. And I say this because there's something called automation bias. Automation bias is when you see output from an AI. It's well structured, it's well polished, it looks like, wow, this is mind blowing. You see, automation bias is like you just take all of that hook, line, and sinker without putting it to test. But when I ask you, where did you challenge this output and why did you challenge it? The truth is, the junior who has spent time reading the source, who has spent time mapping out the issues, these things we spoke about when I was answering the first question, right? Who has considered the facts will definitely identify at least one area where he or she disagrees with the AI. And for me, that is the junior I'm going to hold very close. That is critical thinking. So yes, back to you, Sophia.
Great, thank you. Just to reiterate before we get to the next question, Please, if you have any questions or comments for us based on what we're discussing, please put them in the chat and we will have a dedicated Q&A session towards the end. Okay, so on to the next question. We've kind of danced around this so far. We've talked about, the quote unquote dangers of AI use. And I think the number one problem is hallucination. And you already mentioned this and touched on this earlier. And for those that are not aware, hallucination is where an AI model fabricates facts and present them as though that they are facts. So that means that if you're relying on something that's fabricated, obviously it's a false premise, right? And this is an issue that AI researchers and leading figures in the field are trying to address. And it's gotten better, but we're not at the stage yet where it's completely eradicated. So this is a key problem that we face with AI use, and it is a particularly costly one in the line of work that we do. And I think my question here is, what are the key habits? What are the key things that junior lawyers should be looking out for when verifying, output from AI models? What are those, areas that they should spotlight? What are the things that they should be looking at critically when they're reviewing output from AI models?
Another fantastic question, Sophia. And, before I answer that question, you see, let me say something to, again, our very engaged audience. Sophia said something almost in passing that, yes, the hallucination thing is getting better, right? So I want to emphasize that truly it is getting better in that a lot of work is going into ensuring that outputs from these AI models are more accurate than it used to be. Okay, but I'm the only reason I'm saying that is because there are those people who probably be thinking, so what's the big deal about these AI tools? I mean, after all, it could get me into trouble. Why am I, that's back and forth. I want to reiterate that these tools are very good, extremely good. And for those of you who have used, and I'm not endorsing any particular vendor here, if you have used Claude Fable 5, you would know that this is agentic AI like never before. This is a tool that can plan. It can think through complex multi-step reasoning and come out with almost out of this world thought processes. I mean, you look at Opus 4.8, another fantastic reasoning tool, Sonnet 5, right? It came out just a few weeks back. That particular one was designed for knowledge work, like the work lawyers do, right? And I mean, I want you to hear me that these tools are very good. But you see, underneath, they are being very good is one flaw. The flaw is that the same thing that makes them very good is the exact same thing that could cause them to hallucinate, which is to lie. And that is they are trained on vast throws and throws of data sourced online. Some of the data is correct, some is wrong, now, even though after that pre-training, post-training and fine-tuning occurred, because at its core, what makes it a large language model is that it has certain inaccuracies. Those inaccuracies have a tendency to show forth in the answers it would spit out. And our work as lawyers, we cannot be wrong. Now, even if we are wrong, we cannot be recklessly or negligently wrong. And that's why even a 1% hallucination rate is bad. Right. Now, some would then say that, oh, how about small language models that have been trained with specific information and with RAG, and that's retrieval augmented generation, tied to sources and all? Well, those ones are better, but they also suffer. They suffer because they escape the large language buildup. They are not as good as the frontier models. So it's a catch-22. So I just thought to lay that out for those who are wondering, right? So to the answer, what habits should young lawyers develop to serve as a kind of barrier against this hallucination? I would say the first thing is think before you prompt. Think before you prompt. What that means is write out in your own words the likely issues, the key facts, the strongest points, right? This small step alone gives you something independent that you can use to judge against any response you get. So it ties with one of the first habits I mentioned, but it's worth repeating, that you think first. And that way, whatever response you get from the AI, you can benchmark it against something. The second one is to break your work into small parts, right? Separate your outputs. Which one is fact? Which one is law? Which one is recommendation? Then what authority supports each one? And when you are verifying, you need to go a step further, because a cited authority can still, I mean a real citation can still mislead. What do I mean? What if it came from a wrong jurisdiction? What if that case has been overtaken on appeal, right? What if the words that you are quoting from that AI, what if it was a dissenting opinion, or it was the other lawyer's counter argument and was not the court's decision? So verification means you are not just checking whether this citation exists. You are also checking the relevance. You are checking the reasoning. So that's a deeper level, right? And then you always, another habit is always look for what is missing. So go back to that, my Tuesday email, Thursday email, or there was a missing telephone call, right? And the fourth habit that I would say, is always keep a verification trail. That is, when you prompt on legal work, have a journal, have a file someplace where you write the steps that you have followed. That will be your fallback. And if I can throw one last one in, it's just worth repeating, which is, at every point, learn to close your screen, your computer, and explain your work in ordinary language, right? If you are able to do all of those, everything I just spoke to is verification at different levels, right? I think that you will be one step ahead of an AI that may throw the hallucination thing at you. Back to you, Sophia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rotimi. This has been really, really engaging and impactful so far. Just throwing a quick anecdote on my end. While I was interning at a top law firm, and I was using AI to help to assist with some research work, and I remember it quoted a specific case, and now I knew this case from my time at law school. So I was like, that's fishy, because what's the context that this specific case would apply to this? Now, obviously, if I hadn't read, for example, if I hadn't read that case all the way through, I probably would have seen it. The names were Nigerian cases. I could have done a quick Google search to confirm that it's an actual case, but the content of it would have been unknown to me. So just because I was familiar with the case, but obviously you don't commit everything to memory. So I was like, what exactly would be the relevance to this specific task? And then I found out obviously that was a hallucination. And like you said, it was a dissenting judgment that was raised. So that was just a quick caveat to everyone, please make sure that you are reviewing these responses. And the thing is, sometimes they're not overt, they're very subtle differences. But that is the mark. I think that's the mark of a good lawyer, being able to ensure that even as you're using these tools, and nobody's knocking it down, we're all here because we advocate for the use of these tools, but be responsible with how you're using them. So yeah, moving on to the next question. We've spoken about hallucination and verification. And I think this is an issue that cuts across borders, right? The lawyer in the UK or the US is going to be faced with these same problems. Now, bringing it home a bit more, the Nigerian legal system is unique and complex in its uniqueness. We have the standard, quote unquote, standard courts that run alongside traditional and customary courts. For example, the Sharia courts. There's a lot of things that go into our system. Laws that might apply in the South do not apply in the North. Even the nomenclature varies from state to state. So keeping these complexities in mind, I would say, what are the additional challenges that AI use presents to us within the Nigerian context that is completely different from any challenges that someone practicing in the UK or in the US or in the Philippines or wherever might encounter from AI use?
Oh, great. I must say, Sophia, you are asking fantastic questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, the main difference is, I would say, the number of verification layers a Nigerian lawyer may have to walk through. And the reason is something I had said before. Many of the tools, whether general purpose tools or legal AI tools, they are built on internet data. And if you just sift through internet data, for instance, we all know if the Supreme Court of the United States gives an opinion, a judgment today, this very today, that judgment is online. Right. Sadly, that's not the case in Nigeria or Africa. So the implication is that much of the training data of the best AI tools at their core are foreign laws, foreign judgments, more than local judgment. So that's why I said verification layers may be a bit different. So I would say the first question is always jurisdiction for every Nigerian lawyer, right? And whatever tool you are using, turn on your critical thinking. Okay, on this issue, what law applies? Is it federal law? Is it state law? Right? Is it customary law? Is it Sharia law? Is it, you need to have that mental map first. And the reason is because a statement that is broadly correct, say under common law, which applies in some instances in Nigeria, it may be wrong in a particular state. It may be wrong in a particular court. Right. So that's a verification layer. And if one just blindly accepts an AI output, one might fall into a trap in that regard. Of course, the next one is the court level. Right. The procedure and weight of authority may differ on whether the matter was before a magistrate court, a high court, the Court of Appeal, or Supreme Court. And I believe every lawyer on this call knows that. But more nuance is that the lawyer also has to consider this issue that I'm engaging the AI tool on. Is there a sector-specific regulator that is playing in this space? So for instance, is it a banking issue or a matter that touches on banking, electricity, or some other regulated issue in which some sector-specific regulation apply? And I'll tell you very quickly, because I want to be very practical here. One of the things you can do is, if you have that regulation, right, attach it as a document to your prompts, right? So that way, that's what we call RAG, retrieval augmented generation, where you take something specific and you use it in your prompt. So that way you are ensuring that you are putting the guardrails. Then also comes currency, and by currency, I mean something I mentioned earlier on. The law being cited in this instance, has it been amended? Is the version correct, right? Many people would tell that in the early days of the GPTs and the different models, many of them would rely on CAMA 1990 and not the new CAMA, and would quote sections from CAMA 1990 and use words from, and so that's another layer of verification that you need to check, right? You don't want an AI response that is combining a foreign principle with a Nigerian situation and giving you something that sounds completely convincing, but meanwhile it's wrong. And I would use the GPS anecdote again. If you use Google Maps in London, right? Now, I know that Google Maps is trained on data all over the world, but imagine you are using a map made for London. It will show, and then you are using it in Lagos, right? It will show that yes, some things are the same. There are roads in London, there are roads in Lagos. There are junctions in London, there are junctions in Lagos. There are roundabouts in London, there are roundabouts in Lagos, right? But it cannot safely guide you through Lagos simply because it has similar features with London. So in the same way, a model that has seen a great deal of American and English legal material, right, may produce very excellent legal English, but it would apply the wrong local rules. So you must be careful with foreign trained tools, right? And you must do that extra work to identify jurisdiction, identify court level, identify regulator, identify the primary source, the statutes, check amendments, check local procedure, check the gazetted copy of the law, right? I mean, for instance, I was doing a research last week on what now? The new NIMSY Act, right? And I realized that it's not been gazetted. But meanwhile, everyone is quoting the law and all, but the truth is, as at that check, it has not been gazetted. So if I was writing a legal opinion for a client, I could easily have made a mistake to be writing what the media is reporting, but I have held on that opinion because I want to see the gazetted copy before I write the opinion. So yes, more verification layers, but that's what makes you a competent lawyer. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I think, that is essentially, our mission at HubTool is to help with these verification checks. Because as you rightly mentioned, a lot of these tools are trained on foreign data. And even though, like you said, there's a bit of transference there where you can apply sound legal knowledge, but the jurisdictional context is missing. And that's what we at HubTool are trying to target and to assist lawyers in this regard. And to my next point now, we've really talked in depth about how AI is affecting training and how to use it responsibly, but also just still in that same line of responsible and ethical AI use. Confidentiality and safety is the cornerstone of our profession. Client confidentiality is not something to toy with, to play with. It's as I said, a cornerstone of our profession. And when you're using these tools, what you're doing is exposing yourself to liability if the proper frameworks have not been put in place. So if you're drafting whatever it is for a particular client matter and there is no guardrail or safeguard that the information that you're putting into that tool is one, not being used to retrain that tool. So that means that you're putting private client information into a public domain, that can get you disbarred. It also, you want to make sure that as well that that information, it does not cost, if it's a market, it has a market value, it doesn't cost the client as well. So confidentiality cannot be overstated. Speaking now to the structures within firms, I want to ask, what are the practices, the governance practices that firms should be implementing to ensure that lawyers are using generative AI tools responsibly, but still aiding in efficiency, particularly as regards client matters?
Great as always. Governance has become one of the key issues. In fact, not one of, it's become the most important issue around AI today. And let me quickly throw this here. For budding technology lawyers, you are the next most beautiful thing that's happened to law in recent times. The tech people, governments, policymakers, everyone is now having bellyache. How do we govern this too? And who are the best people to be in the room where these governance conversations are happening? It's lawyers, right? But it's a kind of lawyer. It's those lawyers who understand the technology. So, I mean, I'm just throwing that out, especially for the young lawyer who is wondering, is this a space I can venture into? You got your answer. So, well, I'll be very direct here. Like Sophia had said in the intro to the question, before any client matter enters any tool, you see, the firm, the lawyer should be able to explain where the information goes. You see, and I'm not saying lawyers should suddenly become developers or become tech folks, no. But I dare say that there is a level of understanding that every lawyer needs to have. And I'll explain. First of all, let's start from the basics. Start by classifying the information you have at hand that you want to feed into an AI tool. Ask yourself, is this information public? Is it eternal to us, to the firm? Say, is it confidential? Is it personal information? Is it sensitive information? So I think the first thing every law firm, every lawyer should do is you have to do a kind of mapping. Ask yourself these questions, and better that you write it down. You see, let's go to that last category, sensitive materials, for instance. Yeah, this should, be prohibited 100% from being imputed into any unapproved AI tool. No ifs and no buts, right? A public chat bot, freely available, should not be that place where you put anything that is confidential, personal, sensitive, or eternal. If it is public, maybe that's fine. And so that's why I said, first of all, classify your information, classify your data. Then the next thing is to map the data flow, right? And this is where a bit of technical knowledge comes in. Ask yourself, this data that I'm entering into the AI, who receives this data? Then you ask yourself, am I a custodian of this data? And under the law, for instance, the Nigeria Data Protection Act, am I a data controller? A data controller, in my own words, is someone who has custody of data and determines why and how the data is used. So you're a controller, in a sense, of your client's data, right? Then ask yourself, there's someone providing this service, this AI tool I'm using. It's a computer screen, yeah? But there's someone behind it, or there's a company behind it. Who are they? Do they retain this data in this case, my client's information, for instance, that I put into the AI, can this provider, can their staff or another company access this data? This data that I'm putting in, do they use it to train their AI model to make it better? This data, where do they store it? Where do they process it? Is it deleted? Finally, ask, does this data cross Nigeria, say, to another country? You see, most people do not aver their minds to this. But I tell you, if the data you are working with is personal data, sensitive data, it most likely falls within the remit of the Nigeria Data Protection Act. So let's be clear, not all data falls within that remit, but I'm speaking of the personal and the sensitive ones. So if that is true, all the questions I ask now brings you as the lawyer within the ambit of that law as a data processor, as a data controller. And you have certain obligations, right? So in a nutshell, the firm, the lawyer must decide why and how the client's information must be used. And you must tie that to the rule of confidentiality under the RPC, right? There's no ifs and there are no buts. Let me quickly say this before I turn it back to Sophia. And that is why when it comes to legal work, ensure that the tool you are using is enterprise grade. Now, again, without endorsing any tool, let me just speak to the general purpose tools. If you are using ChatGPT or you are using Claude, for instance, right, ensure that you are using enterprise grade. Enterprise grade means, first of all, that it's being paid for, right? Now, it's not all the paid for tools that are at the corporate legal enterprise grade level, right? What really makes, so if you're a law firm, you should ensure that the tool you are using, for instance, has zero data retention policy. What that means is that whatever data you are using in that tool, that company cannot retain the data, cannot train on the data, and cannot pass that data on to any other third party. And the way you guarantee that is by contract. And that's why it's called enterprise tools. So if you're a law firm, you sign off for an enterprise tool, it is guarded by contract, and that way you are protected from breaching, whether knowingly or unknowingly, this rule of confidentiality. There's more to be said there. Maybe I'll take it in the course of questions, but that's the baseline. Know the tools you are using, be able to map the data, know who the providers are, as much as possible, ensure that you are using a tool where your data is being sandboxed, guardrailed, and then most likely you are 100% fine. Back to you, Sophia.
Great, thank you. So we've come to the end of this moderated discussion, but I do have a question that I hope Mr. Rotimi would just briefly answer for us, just to tie things up nicely. And I just wanted to ask, looking at where we are now, and sort of like the state of the advancement of AI and large generative models, I would ask you, what are the key skills? Maybe they've not been, they've not been identified as key skills yet, or maybe they're just emerging at this moment. But what do you think within the next 5 years are the key skills that will really distinguish lawyers from, just being merely run of the pack in terms of having these tools to assist them, to transcending into exceptional territory? So what are the key skills that make exceptional lawyers within the next 5 years?
Very quickly, thank you very much, Sophia. Like we've been saying all through this past within the hour, in 5 years, how to use an AI tool will be ordinary competence, right? And I feel sorry if there's anyone who is not able to use an AI tool in 5 years. That person is obsolete. There's no nice way to say it, right? But what will make a lawyer stand out and be exceptional in 5 years, number one, is being able to ask the tool the right questions. Asking the tools the right questions will be a superpower, right? You see, because when you now have highly capable tools that can pretty much do every and anything, then what makes you stand out is you know the right questions to ask. The right questions many times will guarantee the best answers. What will make you exceptional, number two, is the lawyer who can always find the missing facts. The AI will be very good and will be better as the months and the years go by. In 5 years, I mean, these things will probably be out of this world, but still, that human judgment, right? Being able to spot errors, being able to connect dots, that will make you exceptional. Number three, I've spoken about this before and it will never go old. The ability to do the hard work of verifying, especially difficult sources. That is something that most people will not do. And if you insist on doing it, you are going to stand out. Number four, that you are able to, and this is for emphasis, you are orally able to explain what you know. Information will become democratized. This is the intelligence age. Even your clients will use the best tools and they will have the answers before they come to you. So why would you be exceptional? You will be exceptional because of that thing called wisdom, that thing called judgment. You are able to look at all that information and you look at it with the eye of an expert and say, toss this, toss this, toss this. This is the way we should go. That calls for judgment. That calls for human connection. That calls for empathy. And let me throw two more very quickly. I won't expand on the penultimate one, which is the skill of supervising, because I've spoken a lot about that. But the final one is professional courage. And I say that to say this. With the pace of work that we are going to see in the next few years, with the level of competence we are going to see in these tools, it's going to take courage for you to hold on work. A lawyer to hold on and say, you know, this work cannot go to this client. Why? Because we have not seen the original statutes. We have not read the original law, right? In a fast-paced world where you could have churned out that opinion in 2 hours or 20 minutes, and you hold on to it and say, no, I'm going to see that source. That calls for courage, right? And that those so taking all of those together, those are the lawyers that will stand out. There may be more, but please don't forget these bits that I've said. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Rotimi, for a truly impactful and engaging session. Please, if we could react in the chat, I really appreciate Mr. Rotimi for a job well done. I've learned so much during this session. Thank you so much, sir. Moving on to the next portion of this event, I will be handing the baton on to my colleague, Toby, who is a co-founder and our CTO, the Chief Technology Officer here at HubTool, to give a brief run through of our platform and what we have to offer. We've talked extensively about how AI is here to stay and sort of the pitfalls for us to look for along the way. And as I mentioned earlier, one of those issues is jurisdictional awareness and the error and the danger in using tools that are foreign trained that do not have our specific context in mind. So yeah, over to you, Femi. Thank you very much. Just to confirm, Toby, are you here?
Yeah, just
Okay.
Was trying to unmute. Okay. Okay, so I can share my screen now. Okay, so everyone should be able to see my screen now. Okay. All right, yeah. So I'm just gonna do a quick walkthrough of our platform, and just great conversation, and I think a lot of the key points were touched on, especially when it comes to working using AI tool to just help and assist when it comes to legal work. So yeah, up till our goal touches on all those key aspects: the confidentiality, the limitation, the RAG systems that we do implement to get as accurate and as tailored of a result to each jurisdiction. And in this case, we're focusing specifically on Nigeria. So we're gathering as much clauses, laws, constitution, judgments, decisions, and all of that, contract samples, examples, and all of that to be able to educate and train our system as much as possible to be as familiar to the jurisdiction as possible, right? So, just a quick walkthrough. I'm not gonna go too in depth. Yeah, the site to get into the app is Optal.ai. We're currently in the process of releasing a new version. So if you do try to sign up now, you might just be added to a wait list in order to be allowed to test the platform before committing. So we do have a 7-day trial that anyone can access. So just going into the platform is very simple and very chat. It's a chat-based system, given that that's what most people are familiar with. And then with the introduction of things like playbooks, prompts, libraries. So just going off of a demo in terms of the functionalities here. One thing that we do like that drives a good result is how good your prompt is, and also to some of the points that was mentioned during the panel discussion is providing the AI with as much resources, as much guidance as possible, right? So that's where playbooks come into play. So what we've done is create a platform where you can create your own playbook, right? And we've also internally, we're working on with our lawyers internally as well to help generate playbooks and then also prompts that can get you a good result right off the bat. And you can also create your own prompt and save it for later, share it with people in your team or in your org. Same thing for playbooks, right? And all this, you can always come back and see your documents all show up within the document library where you can get more detailed, edit it, and format it as well. So to the key functionality here, I'll just do a grab a system prompt for let's see, draft an employment agreement, selecting jurisdiction Nigeria, and in this case I won't add a playbook. I'm just gonna do just a general drafting for this. So once these are generated prompts that we've come up with that we know will get as as close to a good result as possible. But you can always create your own system prompts. Going off of that, what we've also included is just, like I mentioned, we have about 3 layers of retrieval. So we have the basic knowledge base that we're creating, and then there's the RAG system as well, and then we also have the model that's behind it, right? So after all of that, before is a pre-check to make sure that you've provided as much detail in the prompt to get that. If there's not enough detail, you will get like a questionnaire to pretty much answer those questions. So this way, before we draft or before we review, where we have provided as much information as possible. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to use placeholders. Okay. So yep, so as we go through this, you can see it's specifically asking certain follow-up questions based on the jurisdiction that's selected and just based on certain standards required for the agreement. And I will just select a few things. So once that's been done, the generation process begins, and that's where it's similar to how most tools work. So in addition to that, the prompt that's been provided, we then run that against our knowledge bank, which is specific to the jurisdiction that's been selected, to make it more tailored directly. There was a point that was mentioned earlier that most of the tools out there currently, a lot of the training, a lot of the generation behind it is based off of the US or European market. So what we're really tailoring our application towards is being jurisdictional specific for Nigeria, for Africa, right? And in that process, it means building those knowledge banks. We've already established the limitation of judgments and decisions are not as readily available online as most other countries. So what we do is we do the hard work, we do the groundwork to be able to get those things into our system and constantly update it. And in doing that, we're also looking, and we're in conversations to partnering up with different third party and other companies that already do have a good knowledge bank, templates and clauses, and partner up with them in order to also make sure that we're getting as detailed as we can with the responses and as specific to Nigeria or whatever jurisdiction is specific as possible. So during the process of this drafting, it's gonna just it's going through all the backend layering. Once the result is done, it opens up in a I'm just gonna talk over as this is generating. So in a few, you're gonna see it open up the editor on the side, where you can then decide to continue to refine the document based on the results you're seeing, right? If you want to take this off the platform, you can export it into Word and it retains everything. So it is native to Word. A Word add-in is also being deployed in the next couple of weeks as well, where you would be able to use the same functionalities that as you are on the platform within within the within Microsoft Word, right? So anything that's done in here, when you export it, in terms of the formatting, in terms of the numbering, in terms of the formatting, everything is taken as seen when you decide to then export it to as a docx or open in Word. So if you delete a particular number, it pretty much just the numbering is automated, the formatting retains. The formatting you see here is the Opto specific formatting. We do offer the design partnership program and also an enterprise level version for those who may want to further customize things to their organization. So we're in discussions with quite different companies as well to partner with them to help build this tool to tailor towards what their specific goals are within their organization, right? So this is the base that is pretty much open to the public, but then we have the detailed aspect where we can customize and fine tune based on each company and the different formatting, different languages, or if they have internal documents and prompts or playbooks that they want us to ingest into it, we partner with that to be able to do it. And just to round, yeah, so this is editable in here. You can make your changes. You can continue to chat with it to further refine the document. And once you're done, you export it. So the review process works in the same flow where you can come in here, attach. In this case, I'll run a playbook. And I don't think I have that. 1 second. I'm gonna run this and attach a document. Actually, I do have an employment agreement, so playbook. So these are some playbooks that we've generated internally. I'm gonna specify jurisdiction specific, and actually I don't think. Okay, and I'm just gonna run a full contract review prompt on this, and yeah. So while this also goes, the review is a similar flow. Just that this time, we kind of just scan through the document, we review it. If there's a playbook, if there's a playbook that is added to to the prompt and to the uploaded document, sorry. We run it against your playbook, and then we also have the standard clauses and the standard review that we run. So we run those two in parallel and provide a report, a result to that specifically. Okay. So when that is done, as that is being generated and the document has been scanned and reviewed, once you get the result back, the red linings, the findings, and just the result of the review, you can then proceed to get a red line document, right? So this way, the red lining is applied onto the document directly, and all you just need to do is take that into Word, and the red lining tracks as it comes into Word as track changes as well, or you can decide to send that to whoever needs to make those changes and they see it as well. So all these things are word native. They retain across platforms, whether you're doing it on the web platform or within Word, it stays. And once you generate the red line in, it pretty much does the markings, crosses out what needs to be changed and replaces it. The color formatting is there. And you get a full review document. And if you need a summary, you can ask it for a summary. We generate the summary as well. So I think my time maybe I'm just waiting for this to finish. Just realized my camera wasn't on. Okay. Yep, and then while that is going, I'll come back to show the result of this later. Let's do something here. We also have, okay, so this is actually done. I'll just wait here. See the result. Well, I'll touch briefly on projects. So projects is a way that we allow for teams to, individuals to just group whatever they're working with within each project. And once this is, you can invite team members and other people to this specific project alone, and you can start a chat within there. Every chat that's there will show up in here. Files that are generated or uploaded within the project will be there as well. So this way you can work with your team members. You can work with external counsel and parties as well to be able to see what everyone is kind of working on, and makes it easier for everything to be in the same place. So that is the functionality of projects. It holds everything together. Chats. So chats can live outside of a project, but if you want all those things, chats and the files that are attached to it, and the playbooks or prompts, you can specifically attach it to a project. So this way, everyone within the project would be able to see and access it based on the level of permissions you give them. So back to the review. So as you can see, this document was reviewed, a summary is provided, and then there are just some key takeaways that are provided. And from there, you can see this, we ran a playbook against this, and each of this provides a result as to what those playbooks, what the result of running it against the playbook was. And you can then go in deeper to review what those findings are, right? And you can decide to see detail or choose to then redline the agreement, right? Anything that's redlined would then become a prompt, which you can then use to generate the document for redlining, right? So not to take too much time, the redline document pretty much looks the same as it drafted, just that it's marked. The markings for the redlining markings are on there. It's styled as a red line. When you go into Word, the comments and the formatting is also retained. So that is it. I don't know, Sophia, if there are questions, or but that concludes it. So yeah, in a few weeks we'll be launching and the second version. We have the first version out there. A few people who are using it currently, but the registration for that has closed, and we're only just doing a wait list until we launch the second version. So that would allow for more people to be able to utilize the platform. So that's it.
Thank you so much. I mean, I wonder if I'm being audible, but Idris, yeah, back to you.
Okay, yes. So thank you so much, Mr. Ogunshola. Sophia, you're supposed to come back to take the Q&A if there are any questions that are
Yeah.
left unanswered.
Yes.
So
Sorry. Pardon me. We had actually intended to do the Q&A straight after the discussion with Mr. Rotimi. But I think this just presents an opportunity as well in case there are specific questions about the offerings at Hopto and the product. And I think Femi will be able to answer those questions. I don't know if, because I've looked at the Q&A section and I haven't seen a lot of questions. And the one question there by Rabiu has already been answered by Mr. Rotimi. So if there are any additional questions, please put them in the Q&A section, or Mr. Idris, if you have access to the participants chat and you could read out the questions, and then Mr. Rotimi could take it from there. But from my end, I don't see any questions in the Q&A board.
So yes, I also have gone there, and there are no questions. But I think what I would advise is let's take Rabiu's question and let Mr. Rotimi answer live, so that it becomes of benefit to everyone, as opposed to, I know some people they also have gone there to answer it, but let's just take his answers live first, and then we can now, maybe before he finishes, there'll be more questions that will be dropped into the Q&A, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfect. So please, if you have any questions, please put it in the dedicated Q&A section, so that we can read them. Otherwise, if you're putting them in the chat, we do not have access to them. Just to read Rabiu's question, it says, "Good afternoon and well done for the wonderful presentation. My question is, how can we trust an AI piece that it was not a hacked one? Thank you and have a great day." So Mr. Rotimi, please take the floor.
Okay, thank you, Rabia. And I smiled when I saw your question. So the response I put in the chat was, I kind of assumed the best case scenario, because your question could swing in many directions. How do you know that an AI piece is not a hacked one? So, I mean, that supposes that you put in a prompt and then you get a response, and between your question and the response, there was some injection, and then the response you are getting is not what the AI would have given you. Well, I guess that's why my answer basically came down to, you need to know the system, the tools you are using. You need to know that they are credible, they are from the right sources. So essentially, you think from first principles when you think of your AI tools. Where did you download it from, first of all? Did you go to the primary source? Did you go to the App Store and download it from the primary source? So those are just fundamental questions to ensure that you are using the right tools. Now, once that is established, then every other thing just follows suit from there, right? If you are using the right tools from the right source, these folks have a reputation to protect, and they invest a lot in security. So ordinarily, I would not say that something cannot be hacked, but what I would say is that there are protections in place to ensure that you are not getting a hacked response. So you do your due diligence, ensure that you always go to the primary sources, you download from the right links, and you are using the right tools. You shouldn't have to worry. So everything else I put in my response was reiterating what I had said, before. which is for sensitive documents, use only approved platforms that have audit logs, access controls, digital signatures, file hashes. And these are things that any credible AI service provider will have. And I then said for legal work, authenticity is just one leg. That is verifying that you are using the right tool. That's just one. Every other thing follows from it, which is you check every material fact, every authority, you verify everything. That's the answer. And lawyers, we already have that innately in our DNA. We don't take things just at the surface. So it's the same thing you do in the digital world. You trust, but you verify. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Rotimi. I don't think any additional questions have come in.
Okay, I have my own question for Mr. Rotimi, and it has to do with some of the things he said previously. And there's a very particular ethical question that has always bothered my mind, and that is the fact that as the use of AI tools become more commonplace, and he mentioned it during the course of his presentation that we should all go and use enterprise versions of these AI tools. Now, these enterprise versions are highly priced. Are there any shortcuts? Are there anything that in the course of usage of these AI tools, while I agree that you must use the paid one, can you give us anything from his wide experience that we could use even with the basic AI tools? And even I know I always advise against using free, but that are there any guardrails in imputing data into these AI tools without going to the enterprise solutions that actually solves the problem he was trying to mention? So Mr. Rotimi, please help us if you can.
Okay, thank you very much, Idris. And I would answer the question with the caveat that we would still insist that for lawyers, it's always best to use enterprise grade tools. That said, say all you have is a consumer tool. And when I mean consumer tool, I'm saying your free chat GPT. Then, and this comes back to the Practical Training Academy. I mean, you hosted a course some time ago, prompt engineering. In that course, and again, I'm saying this so that folks can go to your YouTube channel and audit that course. I walked participants through several protocols. Beyond verification, these are the things you called guardrails. I mean, things like you anonymize data. If you are putting in a prompt, you don't have to give the name of the client. You don't have to give personal identifying information. You can ask a question without giving personal data, but you need to do the hard work of sanitizing that prompt, and then you ask the question. The AI does not need to know the name of your client, where your client resides, the value of the transaction to give you good answer. So that's one discipline that I think everyone, regardless of the tools, actually, I mean, always think sanitize first. Because even in the Nigeria Data Protection Act, there's something called data minimization, right? Which means if you don't have to give the AI that information, don't give it. Yes, I know that the conventional wisdom is the more information you give, the more material you give, the more context you give, the better response you get. But as lawyers, we need to balance that by saying, yes, I will give context, but sanitize context. So clean out unnecessary information. And you can do it because you asked. You can do it with cheap tools, right? Before you put in a Microsoft Word document that has your client name, the transaction value, the address, put it inside Microsoft Word. Use that feature called, what's it called? I don't use Word too often, but is it find and replace, right? Instruct Microsoft Word. Everywhere there's personal information, data, remove it and put XXXX, right? So that way the document you upload, right, is stripped off of any kind of sensitive or personal data, but the AI can still give you good answer. So I mean, Idris, I'm saying at the very rock bottom, right? And at the very least, that's what I would advise. And it's a discipline that I think every lawyer should learn so that we don't get ourselves into trouble. There are more, but I would refer folks to that course, prompt engineering, and ask folks to go look at that video. Yeah.
What
Great.
Mr. Rotimi has refused to say is that he was also the resource person for that course that he's referring to. So just like this one that we have done today, you can access all of those courses on our YouTube page, and the link has been posted in the chat. Yes, please go ahead, Sophia. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Idris. And that was a very deftly answered question, if I do say so myself. And in addition to that, I think this next question kind of ties into that really well. Someone asks, if we wish to further develop our AI skills as lawyers beyond this program, what courses would you recommend? So clearly you've recommended that one, but it goes a step further and says, in particular, what courses offer the strongest practical training in applying AI to legal research, contract drafting, negotiation, compliance, legal operations, and law practice management? And I'll also condense another question that asks for the tools that will be helpful for an aspiring legal practitioner. So, Mr. Rotimi, over to you. What courses do you recommend aside the one that you that you led, and what tools do you recommend as well?
Okay, thank you very much, Sophia, and great question. So yes, I'm always quick to recommend courses. So I think the way I would answer that question is it's two ways. The course I referred to, which of course Idris has outed me, yeah, is I think it's the ABCs for any lawyer. Prompt engineering for lawyers. But I would always say, I mean, okay, not me, but lawyers, we always say you can't build something on nothing and expect it to stand. That thing we always say in court. Yeah. So I always point folks back to a particular course. It's called AI for Everyone. I will try and type it in the chat, but someone can help me. AI for Everyone. It's a course that was taught by Andrew Ng. Andrew is Andrew, and then Ng is NG. That is his surname. 2 words. NG. AI for Everyone. He had a follow-up course, Generative AI for Everyone. So these 2 courses, just go on Coursera. Coursera is, everyone knows Coursera, like Udemy, Coursera, online. They are free. You don't have to pay for them. I specifically always refer to Andrew Ng's course because Andrew Ng is one of those at the forefront and was at the forefront of this AI revolution. So he doesn't talk hype. He doesn't, he's not interested in all of those tech glorious. He just says it as it is. So that's a foundational course. So when he says for everyone, he actually means everyone, including professionals, right? So I would advise everyone, go audit that course. And you'll find that there are several more, right, by Andrew Ng, including Agentic AI for Everyone. I'm not sure if that's the actual title. Now, once you audit that course, the things that I then shared and I thought in prompt engineering for lawyers will probably then begin to make more sense, because now you are abstracting on top of a foundation, right? And finally, I say that because Andrew Ng could never have thought prompt engineering for lawyers. The only person that can teach any domain-specific course in this terrain has to be someone with domain expertise in that terrain, right? So I believe Stanford and some other schools are now beginning to do AI for lawyers and the likes. Look for it on YouTube. I'm sure you would find. But those are my immediate 2 pointers. Was there another part of the question I missed, so I can answer it
Yeah,
very quickly?
the specific tools you would recommend as well.
Okay. What I like to say is that beyond tools. Okay, just to answer that question, I would say start where you are, right? Whatever it is you are using, and I hope that you've learned a thing or two even from the demonstration on this webinar, right? But start where you are. But wherever you are, right, what I would say, right, before asking for tools, especially if you are a young lawyer, what I would say is build the disciplines that make you a great lawyer first. Check every material authority. Keep a verification record and verification protocol, right? Learn to draft work from a blank page. Um, um, I think that those disciplines are more important than the tools. So I'm not sidestepping the question. There are many good tools. Um, okay, I wasn't going to say this, but maybe some of you would have then found out that by now, maybe I have a bias for one of the foundation models, which is Claude.
Claude.
So for instance, if you find yourself using Claude, right? Understand that Claude has different variants. It has Claude Haiku. It has Claude Sonnet. It has Claude Opus. It has Claude Fable, right? So if you ever get lost, understand that Haiku is the lowest rung, and you use it for small things, routine requests, right? Then at the higher up is Sonnet, right? This one handles more intense problems, even legal work, right? Then a bit higher up is Opus, and Opus handles deep reasoning. And then you now have Fable. Fable is the agentic one, the one that will not just think. This one will actually do work for you, right? So now, the reason why I mentioned it is 2 reasons. Every other tool, to some degree, leverage on some of the prowess of the tools I just mentioned, right? So you can't go wrong. And I only mention them for the sake of first principles. Use whatever you are comfortable with, right? But regardless of what you use, build the disciplines. Learn to ask the right questions. Learn to prompt correctly. Learn how to use RAG. That is, you connect the tool to a source, right? These are the foundational skills that I would rather that you learn, and then the tools come later. Check Hoptal, check the different legal AI tools, right? You won't go wrong. Yeah. Back to you, Sophia.
Okay,
Hi,
before
sorry, I've been speaking and I was muted. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Idris, did you want to say something?
yes, just a quick one, and this has to go to the Optal team itself. So we've seen during the course of the presentation specific citations were made on the fact that you had your success. So I wanted to know, because one of the biggest problems we have with the consumer AI tools that are all over is that because most of our case laws are behind firewalls, has Optel been able to build specifics on the Nigerian laws, particularly Supreme Court decisions, High Court of Appeal authorities, and High Court laws? Because when you use the basic or the consumer AI tools right now, they only give you authorities that are publicly available. And I think this would be a great selling point if you have been able to develop that resource. I just wanted to find out if that is available as we speak.
Okay. Toby, do you want to speak towards this?
Yeah, so that is one of our main selling point in targeting the Nigerian and African market, right? And we are going a step further to build the infrastructure to be able to make sure that the judgments, the clauses, the decisions and laws that are being made and changed on a frequent basis are up to date. So, like Mr. Rotimi said, like we have our own internal RAG system in which, we have our knowledge base. We work with different models. Currently, the main model we use is from Anthropic, right? So we are running Claude behind all of these things. So there are different layers that we've put on top of it to be as jurisdictional specific as possible. And, the hard work that continues to go on and on is in retrieving and collecting all these judgments, constitutions, and stuff that is constantly changing. And because Nigeria is still developing its infrastructure in that aspect, we want to be a part of that. So we're putting a lot into making that happen. Yeah. But as of right now, we have the foundation pieces there, and the goal is we want to continue to build on it. So, we're in conversations with some other firms that are already doing similar stuff to kind of partner up with them and collaborate. We're also building our stuff internally as well. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I just wanted us to have that. Sophie, so go ahead.
Okay, great. The next question is by Sani Issa, and they ask, I want to know whether the do's and don'ts discussed here are peculiar to private or public practitioners. In other words, they are applicable to the members of the bar. I want to know if same applies to the members of the bench, and if not, what are the differences? So, Mr. Rotimi, do these principles
Very quickly.
apply across the board?
Thank you, and thank you for that question. The short answer is they apply to every professional. I could have substituted doctor, lawyer, engineer, anything, banker, anyone for the 45 minutes that I took to answer questions today. I mean, the same thing applies to every profession, including judges. I'll tell you, I sat with colleagues from the section on business law 2 weeks ago with judges in the High Court of Manchester. I mean, these are over 60-year-old judges, right? And they were sharing with us their experiences using bespoke AI tools to help them with their work. And one of the things the judges shared with us was these guardrails. They are not exempt. They are not going to outsource writing judgments to the tool, but they very openly use the tool to help them. And so when you wonder sometimes, how come they don't have the kind of backlogs we experience here? Well, that's the answer. They use AI, but they use it responsibly. They use it within the guardrails that we've been speaking about all throughout this session. So yes, short answer, the guardrails apply across board, everyone. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And then I think the last one that we have time for is by Waliat. And they ask, is there any mentorship program for young lawyers who are willing to learn the appropriate use of different AI tools? I think that's pretty similar to what we was asked earlier about the courses, but I think mentorship program is a bit more specific in that it requires a one-to-one engagement. So do we have anything available to that end?
Short answer, I don't know where you are located, or if, for instance, you are a member of the NBA section on business law, as an example. If you are, I would encourage you to sign up with the technology committee of the Young Lawyers Committee of the NBA section on business law. There are informal mentorship opportunities. I say that because I walked through that chain myself, and many of the things that I am today was because I served in that channel. So I would encourage you, join the section on business law, Nigerian Bar Association, and then maybe lean towards the technology committee. You would find mentorship opportunities right there. And then very limited, I am able to guide folks. I think in one of the questions, I shared my LinkedIn address. You can send me a request, I'll add you up, and then I could answer some of your questions and hopefully point you in the right direction. So yes.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Rotimi. So I regret to inform everyone that we have come to the end of this session. I don't know about you, but I have learned so much, and it has been really insightful. But as I wrap up today, I just really want us to have one key thought present in our minds. The sum of it is that AI is changing legal practice. The nature of legal work is evolving every single day. And as Mr. Rotimi said earlier, the lawyer of the next 5 years, you need to be able to use these tools. If you don't, you become obsolete. But the key fundamental fact that we need to keep present in our mind is that these tools do not replace the qualities that define great lawyers. And what are these qualities? Good judgment, ethical reasoning, critical thinking, and professional responsibility, particularly as it regards confidentiality. If anything, these human qualities actually become even more valuable in an AI-enabled profession. So these quote unquote soft skills, as they're sometimes referred to, are also key to what makes a good lawyer and an outstanding lawyer, where everyone else, where the rest of the pack is using AI as well. So please keep this in mind. I want to thank Mr. Rotimi on behalf of Hotto. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your expertise with us today. We have a lot to go back to. I know I personally will come back and engage with this as purely an attendee, because I think there's so many things that I couldn't note down because I was obviously engaging with you. But this has been a really, really good session. And also my thanks to the Practical Training Academy for also just providing this platform for lawyers of all calibers and all ranks to come and discuss pressing issues like this in a platform that is safe, and recognizes that, you know, we're not here to shame anybody, but we're here to talk about these things openly, and in a way that encourages responsible use. So thank you so much to the Practical Training Academy. And thank you to our attendees. Thank you all for joining us, for your questions and for engaging with us. And, you know, if you have any questions or anything, as Mr. Rotimi said, he shared his LinkedIn. I will share mine as well. And please feel free to reach out. You know, I hope that today's discussion has really sparked, you know, ideas and questions about how AI can support your workflow as a lawyer. And we at Hoptal would love to continue this conversation. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we would see about booking a demo or whatever it is. So thank you so much. Mr. Rotimi, over to you, Idris.
Okay, thank you so much, Sophia. Excellent moderation, and everything just went speak span. And on behalf of the TPTA, I would like to thank Optel for this great opportunity. The website is optel.ai. I've already gone there, and I encourage everyone to go and look at all the all the things they have that we can use there. A specific thank you to Mr. Olufemi Ogunshola, the Chief Technology Officer of Optel. Thank you so much for this partnership. And a very big thank you to a great friend of TPTA, Mr. Rotimi Ogunyemi. This is like the second webinar where you have facilitated and done it very well. In my introduction, I said you were the expert on AI and technology in Nigeria, and you gave credence to this. So a big challenge to you, sir. You referred us to Andrew Ng, who has videos on YouTube. Do videos for us now. Share this knowledge. Do YouTube videos. Let us specific ones to lawyers. Show us how to draft. Show us how to particularly use this AI and technology. You make some money too now, Abi. I beg, we're begging you, Mr. Ogunyemi, share this knowledge so that also we start getting money from it. To all the participants and the attendees, hope you got value. TPTA was established for this, to ensure that everyone gets this additional knowledge that are not commonplace. And so please get it done. On behalf of the chairman of the TPTA, Mr. Tobena Orejikwe, I'd like to thank you, all the attendees, our facilitators, and everything. And like I said earlier, this video is also available on YouTube. Just go to the link, go to YouTube, type out the Practical Training Academy, you get to our channel. You can always watch it on demand. So thank you, and I hope you have a great evening. I finally hope that we have been able to spark the interest in a lot of you on AI and technology. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.